In today's review, I would like to show you the first 80s fragrance that I ever had past my nose that pretty much started off my love for retro and classic fragrances. Quorum by Antonio Puig. Now, this fragrance has pretty much always been in my collection ever since I first started. I've always loved the way it smelled, I've always loved the theme of it, I've always loved how it was one of the staple men's fragrances of the 1980s. It came out in 1982, although a lot of sources say 1981, so I'm not exactly sure on what the date is, but I'm pretty sure it's 1982. You guys will have to correct me if I'm wrong. The noses behind this fragrance, we have three perfumers, guys. We have Carlos Benaim, Max Gavari, and Rosendo Matteo. So, three perfumers to create this fragrance. Now, this fragrance is still widely produced. You can still buy this in discounters, online, also for really, really cheap. But do not let the price tag fool you. This is one of the greatest aromatic, woody, mossy, kind of smoky, patchouli fragrances that you'll ever smell, in my opinion. Now, I do think that, of course, there are better offerings from other companies, but Quorum, to me, is a classic, and I really can't wait to review it. I actually reviewed this fragrance many, many years ago when I first started off my YouTube, when I was very inexperienced, but I didn't really know a lot about fragrances. Now, I want to show you guys, first of all, the original formulation. This is a 100ml. This is what the bottle looks like. It's really, really cool looking, really classic. Quorum Eau de Toilette under there, Antonio Puig underneath, 100ml, 3.4 fluid ounce, 85% volume. Some bottles nowadays won't feature the name Antonio Puig underneath. Do not worry about that. That doesn't mean anything. It's still the same batch. The version of today is very, very, very good. I have an aftershave here. I believe this is from the early 2000s. It's very, very good stuff, this. I actually had a shave today, guys, and I've used quite a lot of the Quorum products here to make sure that my skin is rejuvenated. And it's just awesome. Love this aftershave. It's actually really strong for an aftershave. And I also have this 30ml Vintage Mini, which is just, again, absolutely fantastic. This one, I believe, is from the 80s. I don't know if it's first edition, but it is definitely from the 80s. I know that because we only get the word Puig, or the name Puig, I should say, on the bottom of the bottle there. So, and I've also got this thing here, which I'm really excited to show you guys. I got this as a birthday present off my girlfriend. I'm absolutely in love with it. It's a Quorum gift set, which I'm going to show you guys as well in a minute. It's a really cool set. I'm absolutely in love with it. This shave set is really, really good. It smells very strongly of the fragrance itself. It's the same with these aftershave balms here. Everything is just awesome. I love it. The aftershave is incredible as well. I think this is definitely a vintage gift set because this aftershave has an old sticker on the bottom of it, which I'll actually show you guys. Why not? Just give me a second to get this open. Okay, here we go. So it's got this sticker on the bottom of it here, which just says made in Spain, whereas this one doesn't. This one just has an indentation into the bottle. Like I said, this one doesn't. It just has a sticker, so I'm pretty sure that's how I know that it's an older version. But whatever. I'm not really bothered about any batches or anything when it comes to Quorum. The reason I've got a big collection of it is because I love the fragrance so much. I know I've spent 4 minutes basically showing you guys everything, but we will be talking about the smell and actually doing a review for it. So, yeah. Here we go. So, I'm going to spray the new version on my hand there, and I'm going to spray the vintage right here on my other hand. Really like the sprays, especially for this one. It's really really old-fashioned, whereas the newer one is a little bit it's a bit better, let's be honest. The distribution on it is a bit better. So I'm going to show you guys the accords now for Quorum. Here we go. So the main accords for this, we get woody, aromatic, mossy, citrus, earthy, tobacco, leather, fresh spicy, warm spicy, and floral. Like I said, 3 perfumers have made this fragrance, and there's a bit of differences between both versions. I would say the vintage is better, which is to be the case, but the new version is actually still very, very nice. It has a very nice smell, which certainly reminds you of the those older fragrances, but it's a bit lighter. Whereas the vintage is a bit more rounder, it's a bit deeper. So that's the difference. But we're not doing a new versus old in this video. We're pretty much just dedicating this review to the smell of Quorum and the fragrance itself. So let's get down to the smell. Here we go. Now, I'm going to put the notes on the screen so that you guys know pretty much what's inside this fragrance. It's basically one of those scents that has a ton of notes, just like a lot of other classic fragrances. I'm going to go through them though. So basically in the top here we got Artemisia, caraway, lemon, bergamot, and grapefruit. The middle notes are pine tree, sandalwood, patchouli, carnation, jasmine, and cyclamen. And the base notes are oak moss, tobacco, leather, and amber. What I get from this fragrance is a very nostalgic, what reminds me of the fragrances that my grandfather would have worn, or those older fragrances without a doubt. It reminds me of an aftershave personally, and I think the whole shaving products really makes sense. But what I really like about this is it opens up very, very green. It also has that woodiness underneath, but it's done in a way that smells very classic. It's not like your modern green type of fragrances, nor is it like your modern woody type of scent. It's done in a way that's very, very old-fashioned and very retro. Think of like a guy working in New York City in the 80s with his mullet hair and wearing a suit and tie, and he works in business. That's the type of fragrance that I get. And that's the type of fragrance that I can imagine. And this is the type of fragrance that I can imagine somebody like that wearing. The opening of it is a little bit citrusy. The citruses don't fly off your skin. You don't immediately think to yourself, this is a citrus-based fragrance. What it mainly is a smoky, burnt wood, crushed leaves, forest kind of fragrance. That's what it reminds me of. So I do definitely get the Artemisia. I definitely do get this slight citrus in the opening as well. A little bit of spiciness from the caraway, but it's very dry when you first spray it. And it's not until it dries down, I would say, probably after about 10 minutes, that the fragrance starts to get a little bit more natural. The pine starts coming through. You get a little bit of that sandalwood, the patchouli also, which really gives this fragrance that bit of a smokiness. But of course the smokiness is coming from somewhere else as well, the tobacco. Now the tobacco in this is definitely probably the highlight of the scent, although when you smell tobacco fragrances nowadays, it's blended very differently. Yeah, the tobacco in this is done in a very old-fashioned way. It actually reminds me of maybe like a smoker's lounge, when the men would smoke their cigarettes and you'd get that smell out of the ashtray. That's the type of tobacco smell I get out of this personally. It's definitely not a modern type of tobacco, but with the tobacco and everything else, there's a mossiness. There's also a bit of a leatherness going on. So think of like a dusty leather jacket. That's really what I get from this. And I think, the color of the bottle and everything really highlights that type of vibe. At least it does to me. I think the fact that it's a little bit green, brown, it kind of makes sense. The bottle pretty much smells like the fragrance, if that makes any sense to you guys. It's just an incredible scent. There's really nothing really robust about it. There's nothing harsh about it. I mean, some people today might smell it and be like, that's definitely not for me. That's mainly the type of fragrance maybe my dad would wear. But other than that, if you get past that, you really realize for yourself that this is a very refined fragrance, and a fragrance that, may take you back if you were born in that era. But it's a fragrance, in my opinion, that is very, very timeless, and you can really wear this today and rock it really well, in my opinion. It's just incredible. I absolutely love the way Quorum smells, and I think a lot of other people like the way Quorum smells, because it gets a good response in the community, and it's a very highlighted fragrance for the Antonio Puig company, because there's 2 flankers already been made for it. One in the 90s called Aqua Quorum, which is a bit of a Calvin Klein Eternity type of scent, very fresh, aldehydic, aquatic type of scent, lavender. And then they brought out Quorum Silver, which I actually haven't tried, which is, I believe it's like a nutmeg, cinnamon sort of scent. have not tried that one at all, so I can't say too much. But the Quorum name, like I said, for them to make flankers for it means that it was actually a bit of a benchmark fragrance. And I still hold this fragrance accountable for my love for the 1980s. And it's a fragrance that really, got me accustomed to how the 80s fragrances really smelled. And but it wasn't just the smell. I think that the overall way the bottle looks with the gold around the sides here and the top, really cool cap, apart from the really cheap atomizers, of course. But if you get past all that, it doesn't matter. I mean, atomizers did look like this in the 80s, to be fair. They didn't matter whether they looked good or not. If they sprayed, that was the most important thing. It's just lovely. It's a really, really nice fragrance. I think fans of Ralph Lauren Polo Green would really like this. I also think fans of Antaeus by Chanel would really like this. And for much cheaper as well, it's a no-brainer, And before I end this video, I would just like to say a huge thank you to everyone who was sending me happy birthday posts and messages yesterday. It really means a lot. Thank you all very much. I actually had a great day. This is my first full day as being a 29-year-old, 30 in a year's time. It's a bit depressing. But yeah, I'm feeling good, guys. I'm feeling better than I've ever felt. So thank you all so much for watching. I will see you all in the next video. Keep smelling good. And bye for now.